All I know is I'm high all the time and I take CBD all the time and I'm like, and I'm good, you know? It's like, all I know is it's good for you.
Open up, Colorado. It's 420. Time to grind and burn.
This is not your son's stoner show.
Welcome to the Grind and Burn, a podcast from the Cannabis Community Project. I am Brainstorm, once again bringing you your weekly podcast about the business side of cannabis from the Ding Studios at 3835 Elm Street, Denver, Colorado, while living the lifestyle. Hey, Cannapreneurs, let me take a second just to tell you about Cushly Organic Products. Their company puts out products that are used in hospitals, healthcare facilities, clinics, and homes throughout the United States and beyond. So Cushly has invented this very unique product that works like none other. I use it myself, and many of my close friends and family use it. What it does is it eliminates odor. It doesn't mask it. It's not a perfume. It's not a cologne. It eliminates it. And it's organic and it's non-toxic. And Cushly is one of the best. www.cushly.com. Also find them on Facebook and other social media under the same name, Cushly Organic Products.
The 6 degrees of Cushly. Yeah, it's amazing.
Thanks for joining us, Cannapreneurs, and welcome back to this week's show of the Grind and Burn. It's been a great summer as we wrap it up. We're looking towards the end of the year, planning our end of the year parties. I'm so much more event orientated now that I'm involved in this cannabis friendly event party planning. 424 Play is the official private cannabis parties. I'm a co-owner in it. It's the podcast we're creating. So now everything I do, I'm thinking about how can we create a party around it? How can we create an event around it? So I'm sure you'll have many more parties to look forward to in the future, as well as this new podcast. We're putting it together. Becca and I are working out the details, the format. You know, we're going to need guests. So if you're out there and you are in the cannabis industry, or maybe you're in some form of the sex industry, maybe you have some unique stories or skills or backgrounds that fit into this world of relationships and working in the vice industries of the world, like cannabis, sex, and so many other things to yet explore with new topics. You know, it's not as easy as you think starting a podcast. It's not just as simple as finding somebody to do it with and then recording as you shoot from the hip back and forth about various conversation. Creating a podcast, you also have to take in mind what other people are doing out there and what's going on. So this attempt at this new show is an attempt not just at exploring something that's provocative, but also an attempt to do something that's new and different in the podcasting world. I also have a gentleman interested in doing a health-based show, so we might also be working on a third show based around health issues. You know, I personally am thinking about this lately because of my son's issues. My son, who is now 15 months old, is having some various health issues, and I have just started him on treatment, a CBD treatment. This last month, a regimen produced locally by Gorilla Healer, who is working on some special oils to help my son work out some inflammation, digestion, and growth issues. You know, there's a show about patience that's lacking out there, despite the people out there who are doing shows about patience, because it needs to be more than just simply talking to people and hearing their sad stories. We need a show that's involved in the world of combating the sickness. We need to hear patient stories, but we also need to hear from those who are fighting against this. And Gorilla Healer is somebody out there who is doing just that. So I just started treatment, and that makes me want to do a show about it, to follow not just the progress of my son, but also to include other people who are out there in similar situations. So there's 2 shows. We'll be looking for guests, contributors. You ever thought you want to be a podcast producer? Contact me. Let's work it out, because we can't do it without you as a community. Putting these shows together is not just about smoking and joking. We're trying to get some value valuable information out there, and we need your help to do it. So there's various ways you can help us. Sponsorship. If you have a business or a company and you need an avenue to sponsor, get in front of a dedicated cannabis audience, come talk to me. Maybe you're an individual listener that would like to contribute with your skills or talents or something that contributes to the content of the show. Or maybe you would just like to join up and be a member. Check out the membership page. We have 6 different types of memberships, literally from as little as $9 all the way up to just a couple $100. This is how we support the network. This is how we bring these shows to you. This is how we grow as a community. And this is how we can help you bring your individual talent or skill, develop it within the cannabis community, just like the rest of us. Join up, become a sponsor, become a member, become part of the cannabis community. And you too will find yourself very soon working exclusively in this industry and wondering, like I do, how could I have ever done anything different in my life? How would I have ever known when I was a teenager this was going to exist where I could have pre-planned for it? I couldn't have, which is why I had to take other career paths and develop other skills and pursue other talents to indulge in. And then when this industry opened, it was a natural adaptation for me. So how do you find your skill? How do you find your talent? Well, I'm not a recruiter, so I don't really have all those tests and quizzes that help people determine your personalities and what career is best for you. I have a couple steps of what to physically do if you want to get in the industry and try to find a talent or skill. These are some of the thoughts I was having as I had my conversation this week with this week's guest, Lilly Grace, Lillian Grace. Now, I'm going to warn you, sometimes I have guests on the show who are just off the street and they just talk, they give their own opinion. If they're a grower, they talk about their personal experience of growing hair. Here's how it is. Very few of them actually have high credentials or deep ties to a specificity of expertise or licensure that gives them something above everybody else. But this week, when I talked to Lilly, I found somebody who is undeniable, who has an undeniable talent that requires no license, that requires no certification, that all you have to do is simply listen to Lilly Grace speak and you will know she's the real deal. She has a photographic memory and she has read every single piece of legislation in every single state that has some form of cannabis legislation on the books, recreational or medical. And she has a photographic memory to recall that information with 100% accuracy. Now, this is something that's an undeniable skill, right? I'm sure you could develop this to a point of a skill, right? There's people out there who do the spelling and the memory and all these high extreme human performance type stuff, Tim Ferriss type stuff where you can go to the highest performance of your ability. So I'm sure there's people out there who can develop a super memory. But imagine being born with a photographic memory. Everything you say and do and see is permanently etched in your brain and you can't shake it. Yeah. Imagine what kind of life that would be like. Now, what do you do with these skills, right? You could go down many paths. I'm sure you could even go down some type of circus act, right? Standing out on 16th Street Mall, working for tips as you recall people's items and facts that you've only seen for a second using your memory skills. You could use it for evil and join some type of prosecution team where you're using your skills and facts of compliance and laws to nitpick and grind people down where you finally get them on technicalities because you know the exact details of the law better than anybody else. Or you can do what Lilly did and you can join the forces of good. And you know how I know she's a good person? Because when I asked her what did she want to do when she was leaving high school, you know what her response was? You're going to want to hear this, and I'll give you a hint. Have you seen the first season of Narcos? The second season is coming out. If you haven't seen the first season of Narcos, quickly go to Netflix, watch the entire first season, learn about who Pablo Escobar is, and then it will make sense when Lilly tells us what she wanted to do as a kid. Have you ever found pleasure in reading textbooks and law books and books of code and policy? Now, this is the kind of person you want on your team, right? This would be an invaluable, indispensable type person. Somebody that you know has the quickness and flexibility, empathy of a human, but yet the robotic computer-like recall of memory. How much would you pay an hour to have that person on your team? All right, so not everybody's born with a talent. So what do? You develop a skill or you discover your talent. To me, those are pretty much the two options there. Because if you don't do one of those two paths, what you're going to do is you're going to end up working behind a cash register, in a cubicle, doing data entry, on a street side somewhere, digging up the side of a ditch. You're going to be doing something that requires neither talent nor great skill. So you have to do it yourself. If you can't discover a talent, develop a skill. Develop something that makes you indispensable to the team or community you're working with, and you'll never be unemployed. But that doesn't mean you won't be broke. It just means you'll have a community that you can build off of, and you can also rise to the top of an industry and become known as somebody who possesses a great talent or skill, and make your name known, just as Lilly Grace will have her name known in the cannabis industry. Now, before we get into all that conversation and talk, let's make sure to quickly look back at last week's show. Do you remember that? If you didn't, let me give you a couple minutes right now with our short-term memory flashback relapse. Then go back, listen to the show, like, click, share, comment, let people know you're listening, and then go to the store. Get some Cushley products, get Herb Box, join the membership, help us grow this community, and then think about what kind of show you want to do, because it's a community for you too. Grind and burn. Let's learn about it. And I'm sitting here with my lovely co-host today, Hetty Becca, who's going to join me on the conversation.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for the opportunity. My name is Damon D'Amico, originally from Chicago, Illinois, live in Thornton, Colorado. Hemp connoisseur, cannabis connoisseur. I'd like to educate, share the information, and I work for actually a few different cannabis companies. One of the largest, actually the largest hemp farmer in the world. That's what I'm doing in a nutshell. The science technology that's behind the nanotechnology, behind CBD nanotechnology, because I specifically don't know the exact technology. But what it is they're taking these molecules, the CBD molecules, and turning them into a nanometer, which is the billionth of a meter. And it's just creating a lot more surface space for the CBD to work, but at the same time, it's creating a water-soluble product. You're turning oil into a powder-based crystalline, which is water-soluble.
You like these type of companies, right? You like the direct sales and
I like the direct sales, but more a cannabis activist. There's only two, maybe three companies in the world. We're one of them, GW Pharmaceuticals, which is the big one
out of England.
That makes the synthetic cannabis products. So it goes back to the plant, the whole plant and all that. Yeah.
And nothing but the plant.
Nothing but the plant. Right, exactly. Well, there's a big drug problem out there too, though, with real harmful drugs.
Yeah. But I didn't know this, that your gut feeds your brain. So if we have an unhealthy gut, we have an unhealthy brain. And so when you go on antidepressants, disconnects that communication.
Yeah, sure.
And so now you're worse off now than you were before. Yeah. So then when you get off, you have to reconnect that.
Yeah.
And so a big part of my transformation of the year has been getting off of the antidepressants and reconnecting that. And my mood, like I said, I feel like I'm 20 again. Yeah. I felt so bad for so long. I didn't know I felt that bad. Right. But the other thing, too, is the aging population, or like the baby boomers, everybody had the lifestyle diseases, right? And cannabis, CBD, works with our body to heal our body in a natural way. So it goes hand in hand with creating a nutritious, thriving lifestyle. Yes. And that's what we have to work on.
Absolutely. So I would say the best way to get a hold of me would be through Facebook under Damon D'Amico from Brighton, Colorado.
Might want to spell that.
I'm going to spell it for you. So it's Damon, and the last name is Damico. And if you punch in Brighton, Brighton, Colorado, you'll find me. You can also look up Colorado CBD Connection.
Very nice. Well, I appreciate you coming down to the studio today, showing us all your products, giving us some insight to the new CBD nanotechnology. All right, I'm going to be the first person to use that at all my parties.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Matter of fact, I have a party tonight. I'll start a conversation.
Bring the water bottle.
Very cool, man.
Hey Cannapreneurs, are you inspired by the stories you hear? Maybe it's time for you to tell your own story. Do it right here on this show, CannabisCommunityProject.com, or email me personally, brainstorm at CannabisCommunityProject.com.
Hey Cannapreneurs, this week's show is sponsored by Dairy Berry's Recording Studio. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public postal service announcement. Hey man, I know you. You're that guy from the podcast. There was a time.
Son of the morning, I'm gonna chase you out of earth.
Hello, I'm Lilly Grace. I'm comfortable being called Lilly. I work in the field of cannabis as it relates to education and risk management. I currently work with a company called We Teach, and they do custom design curriculum for card holders, general public, education courses. And what I do is read everything that's not hidden or locked away. I fell in love with reading. Oh, God. My first book was Animal Farm, and I think I was probably 4. My mother was amazed. And I fell in love with the act of reading all of the cannabis legislation. Figured I would read everything in reference to Washington I-502. That was the good part. Bad part was I actually went to Washington and started asking questions. Why did I do that? I met a man by the name of Frank Odell, who I think they're called the Cannabis Licensing Board now in Washington State. But he couldn't answer any questions. And Frank proceeded to ask me, who are you? And where's your identification? Where did you read all of that from? And I was like, okay, well, I read the initiative, the ballot, the enacted laws, the amendment, and I have a photographic memory. Frank didn't answer any questions. What I did learn was nobody's mitigating the risk factor. I've read every single state, even the ones that didn't pass on their first go or their second go. I thought Mississippi's was interesting, the fact that they actually called everybody who wanted a license a criminal artist. New York's very interesting. I read not for just the content and being able to digest it, but being able to summarize and annotate for my colleagues that I work with, but also for a full understanding of how much risk management the state is going to give you when they give you that license to forego the federal level of risk that you're still exposed to. And what I found that the in-between was no, the states are not mitigating any risk on behalf of the individual, only on behalf of the state. So I moved forward with a company that was designing education material, and I put my little 30 cent in. I would say it's more than 2 cents, but I started reading and annotating for other colleagues that are around me and putting together education material to lay out for different dispensaries, card holders, and moving forward, just to understand risk management.
Excellent. So that was a real good base to who you are, but it brought up so many questions. And I'm going to be sitting in today with my co-host. Her name is Becca, so she may chime in every now and then with a question or just a comment.
Hi, Lily. It's Becca.
Hi, Becca.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
The first thing I just want to ask, since you said it, you said you had a photographic memory?
Yeah.
I That must be so great in a cannabis industry where so many lack of memory, right?
No, it's not. I can tell you two things. One, it is good if I could turn it off. Yeah. And then two, it's probably one of the most unhealthy set of circumstances to have in the cannabis industry.
A lot of obsessive thoughts and things you can't get rid of that you can't bury.
I literally cannot enjoy myself like a normal person at a gathering because I've read all of these things from every single state in reference to edibles, topicals, extracts, sugars, blends. I've read every single law in every single state.
Wow. And you can't visually get it out of your mind, all that text?
No. Imagine walking into a room as a man and you are a shoe fanatic. Your father was a shoemaker. You know everything there is to know about shoes from that side of just generation of him making shoes and you being a fanatic about shoes. You walk into any shoe store. It's a trunk showing. You're looking around. You see, oh God, those stitches are off. Oh, that could be bad. These can't be polished. Those soles can't be replaced. These are things that will play in your mind.
Being the expert allows you to nitpick everything else that people are doing.
And some of it, I wish I could say that it was nitpicking. I wish I could say it was nitpicking. There was an event that I went to recently. Went through the room, walked in, read the disclaimer at the door, found a couple of pinholes, but it was solid. But after entering the venue, looking at the sponsors, the people with the tables and all of their products, and the first thing that flashed in front of me was a woman with no gloves, no references to what her product was, but she had it out to eat, and it was cannabis infused. I turned my back and I quickly moved on to the next item. Like, no. These are simple things. Anybody else looking at her would say, oh, she's got this awesome product and you should come and eat it and you should try it. And my first question is, where's the ingredients? Put that on the table. Let's not play stupid. People have wheat allergies, nut allergies, dairy allergies. Let's just be common sense. Don't let cannabis get out of the way of just common health practices.
The transparency, just like we should have transparency when we go and buy products in the grocery store. When we pick when we pick up that product, or if we're sampling a product, the person there is gloved, hair's netted up. They have, notes about the ingredients so people aren't going to be in jeopardy of their own health or life-threatening events.
Regulation.
It's not even looking at the side of being regulated. Some of these are just common sense's approach to business practices. I mean, Costco will feed people by the masses. God knows the sample days are hell to get through Costco. But they have a hairnet on. They have the appropriate procedures to serve demo food. Now, this is not an upscale place. We all know Costco. You can go in, you can almost get lunch. Most of the elderly people do. It's a whole lunch buffet if you walk around enough. But there are practices in place to let you know what it is, how it was made, what it was made with, and the person handling the product has some protocols for their safety as well as for your safety and health.
Because of the photographic memory, the regulation, the laws, and the rules are just always present front of mind for you. So when you see a product, it's just the regulation, the laws, and rules are just right there, always just front of mind, top of mind share for you.
It is apparent. It's there. I can't shake it. I can't move away from it. I mean, even when I talk to people about the franchise models, and it's always going to be a franchise model. If you take a business from one state to another, it's a franchise model. It's the same stuff, same brand. You want to move it somewhere else. Well, it is applicable. It is doable. It is feasible. But there are things that are in place before you can open up an extra Mickey D's, because you have to get the first template right. There's TB, Hep C test in any food grade product. And I'm not just laxing onto the food grade products, but here's a simple one. Extract companies. Love them. There's two in particular that I love. But the protocol is there is a Small Business Administration and OSHA partnership to teach respiratory training to anyone that's in an environment where that type of manufacturing is made. Now, cannabis doesn't qualify for that $10,000 grant because nobody's asked for it. I get a report probably once every few days to see if somebody has even applied for it or challenged to apply for it. And it's for respiratory training. Now, even if you don't get the grant, guess what? It's still mandatory. Each employee has the respiratory training on what to do, safety for that particular work environment. And when I talk to extractors, that's a gray area. Yeah, I'd love to meet this gray area because where I'm from, it's called either you go to jail or you don't go to jail. There's no gray area at the jail site. Like some people get booked in and some people stay in purgatory. No, you either get a cellmate or you go home.
Does photographic memory only apply to visual aspects, or is it auditory and other types?
My diagnosed obsessive compulsive disorder I'm actually diagnosed. It is applicable to things that I hear, things that I read, visuals that I read, and also things that I see. One in particular, like the Food and Safety Inspection Service, FSIS. It is a department under the Department of the United States Food and Drug Administration. Falls under USDA. Either way, they have an outline for protocol for washing, like working in a chemical solvent environment. There are stages when you work in a particular environment where you have a clean room and you have a foot wash station. Well, they have that diagram drawn out. At every entrance throughout an agriculturally grown product, you're supposed to have eye wash, foot wash stations within certain feet of the entrance or exit. And then I go on these, why do I go? I have no clue. But I go on these cannabis tours. Oh, come visit our farm. And I keep thinking, I've never visited a tobacco farm. Why? Because you can't. Then, you go on a cannabis tour, you get to go, touch, taste, smoke. You're all in this environment where it is either recreational or medical, but the protocols aren't followed. And the minute I say something, it becomes offensive. Why would I want to spend that much money on an eye wash station? I was like, well, if you don't have an emergency eye wash station, did you know that it was $5,000 per occurrence per employee? Oh, no? Oh, okay. and then it's like, oh, no? Oh, okay. Did you know that not having a foot wash station is also up to $5,000 per occurrence per entry? Oh, no? Oh, okay. Do you know that these charges can be retroactive from the day you got your license? So, you're building your own case here.
I bet that makes you fun to be with on a Friday night party, right?
Well, you know what? To some people who are really intricate and personally they've seen what the raids and the other processes of the other side can do, I'm a hit. I'm a hit for them because they all follow into and I've heard this from one or more clients, they fall into what I'd rather listen to a lesson than learn one.
I know what I need you for. I need you to follow me around with my wife. So every time I go, you didn't say that, or you said this, I can just turn to you and say yes or no, and you'll have it right there. How much would you charge me on an hourly rate to just follow around my wife and I to settle arguments?
No, I've done marriage counseling twice. Yeah, no. My last couple was married, and this is true. Last couple, he was 71 and she was 60, I want to say almost 62, 63, Filipino, and he was Australian. Yeah, no, it doesn't matter what he heard or what she heard. The end of the beginning of it is, you know what? We like friction. And women, they don't want you to really hear them. They just want you to react.
That's funny.
Keep a shiny object in your pocket and you'll solve almost every argument.
I had a question too, because there's that, I don't know if it's diagnosed, but where you know every date, what day of the week it is. And Mary Lou Henner has it. She knows exactly the day of the week for any year she's been alive.
No, not that bad. I've really tried to train myself to focus in on things. I'm still in therapy, to let some things go. And an example of that is all I wanted was a license for a restaurant in Washington State. When I left Washington State, 2 days on the train back down to Southern California, I had read every single medical ballot, law, and amendment for every single state up until that was when they were voting on Maryland. And I'd read them all. My brain won't allow me to stop until I've read everything that's there and everything that was cited inside of one particular document. And then that's the end.
Well, this is actually a great segue into how you apply that to your current business practices. I mean, I feel like I could go on for a few hours just from a psychology standpoint of asking you about how this works in photographic memory, but that's a whole nother show. Maybe we can do a whole nother show just about that. But
you know what? For me, it was about finding my exact strain. I know now that my exact strain for my optimum me is Blue Dream, outdoor grown in a cartridge base with a 62% or more THC count and an under 18% CBD count. And I know the company. So, I have two companies that I get my pens from, and that is my optimum strain.
I don't remember if you told me or not. Where are you located physically?
Located in San Francisco, California.
Okay. I think you did
the 415 number. I was going to ask you if you're in San Francisco because 415.
Yes.
You're in the 415.
Yes.
So how would you define the specific of your business? Is it a service? Is it a product? What exactly do you do?
It's a service. It's in the education industry.
Okay.
For the field of cannabis. What I do with the company that I work with, which is We Teach, is I help develop curriculum. Right now they are working on an entire composition from the welcome manual called Your First Time to the mini manual, which is kind of similar to a DMV booklet on rights and responsibilities. And then there's another little booklet for doctors' measurements and recommendations. And then the full-blown courses that they're designing are for the Native American community, which is, that's awesome. That one is. And then there are 3 other courses in reference to business, risk management, business operations, and patient and caregiver services.
So is your role in this as a consultant, or are you contracted out to actually write these manuals as a company?
I'm contracted out to participate in the writing process. And mainly what my objective and goal is with this company is to read, summarize, annotate, and cite all of the rules and regulations that are in each state with a comparison of the federal layer of rules and regulations that are under the same house of controlled substances.
So compliance is the specific aspect you're focusing on. You're reading stuff from a compliance standpoint.
Yes.
Does that make you operating in the legal field like a lawyer?
No.
Would that be beneficial? Would that be something that would accompany what you're doing?
No, what I find with the legal field, it does not complement the cannabis industry as far as consulting is concerned, because cannabis sits on 2 sides. One, it is more in line with the court as the criminal division. And then the secondary line of even the business operations, all those, you can't sue. Even if you get a bad deal, a moldy product, you just, for lack of a better word, you're up the creek with it. Good luck. There's no repercussion.
Well, I guess I had a question on your education material. So is your educational material on both aspects of the consumer side, like people coming to cannabis and looking for educational materials, and then business side, people that are currently in the cannabis business in some form, and educating them on what kind of the gap is between what they're covered on a state level versus what they're not covered on the federal? Yes.
So on the consumer side, whether it's medical or just a flat-out recreational consumer, the start of it is the pamphlet. The pamphlet is called Your First Time, and that's for distribution out of dispensaries or retail operations. It's something that we hope that the dispensaries or recreational places will become accustomed of giving that one out. It talks about visiting patients, the qualifications, knowing that your recommendation is solid so you can go to a reciprocal state like California can now go to Nevada. Also, from the recreational side, understanding the ingestion methods, what works for you and what doesn't, dictating specific timelines that maybe you should follow, edible, consume responsibly. So it's basically like a 3-panel brochure that says, hey, we know it's your first time. Here's a few little guidelines. And then on the back of it, of course, it has a disclaimer for the place that they've gotten it from. They say, we hold no liability for you consuming blah, 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 blah. But it's basically a consume and ingest with responsibility.
You know, I got to make sure to pass your information along to some of the owners at the dispensary here. And one of the businesses they have here is a consulting business where they open dispensaries around the country through a consulting business. So you might be a great person to have, as an associate or somebody just to be close to because of the nature of your two businesses, what they do and what you do.
I think that the biggest key piece in what I do is risk management. And like I said before, I've heard it from a couple of clients, and I've branded it to my own motto. I'd rather listen to a lesson than learn one, because there's far more of a greater consequence on the federal side than the state is even giving you the information for. And the fact that the states are providing these, what I refer to as breakaway licenses, it doesn't leave a whole lot of accountability on the state side of giving you a license, then giving you a separate license for your cannabis business business. And then just saying, okay, well, go ahead. We'll update you via email or send you a letter in the mail if any of the rules change. Well, that's not fair. We have other protocol and responsibility in place in reference to operating a business. Just because it's a Schedule I narcotic doesn't mean that all of those just go to the sideline. OSHA is still applicable. The Department of Labor is still applicable. The rules under Food and Drug Administration, those are still applicable. Why they're being ignored, I have no clue. But, the Wild West was tamed at one point, and people survived it. But it also falls back on whether somebody wants to get into this industry and make a brand or make a legacy. And those are two totally different things.
Do you do this on a on-call type basis where a dispensary or somebody will have a document that they need some immediate advice on and they'll call you, you get the beeper call and you come running?
I used to until I got the cat lady call. This is another funny story. So I used to, and this was probably about 22 months ago, and I was in Portland, Oregon. I got a call, and I used to answer them via Skype, and I had a lady who had several cats, and she was a caregiver for several patients. Well, she called me to tell me, can you take a call? And I was like, oh, okay, sure. Didn't really know where in the world she was until the area code came up, and it was Michigan. She had her plants growing in her rat room. Her rat had eaten the stalk off of fully growing cannabis plants. There were more than one, but they had also eaten them during the flowering period. And my first question to her, why would I need to know this? Why are rats your pets? Number one, just out of curiosity, everybody has all kinds of weird pets. I just never thought that a rat would be my friend. She explained the rat part, being the friendly, and she told me that she had 36 of them. And they'd gotten into this particular plant, chewed up the stalk, and she duct taped it to save it. And I said, you cannot distribute that medicine to anyone. You can personal use your own, but that's no longer applicable to any patient you have. And she's like, well, why? If they've gotten inside to chew the stalks or stems or leaves, whatever they've chewed, guess what? Then there's fecal matter in that soil, which means that's not good for consumption. Well, I can wash it off. Her words were she could flush it. She could flush the plant. And my comment to her was, that would be like me taking Oxycontin and dipping it into a used condom, rinsing it off and giving it to you. Would that be the same?
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
That's a visual.
You might have just run back out of the room on that one.
that was the visual I gave her because I wanted her to know this is someone's medicine. And if you take it that lightly, that the rats and the plants and the stalk and whatever they've done to the soil is okay, then you take it.
I'm glad I don't have photographic memory. I can definitely suppress that visual image. So aside from doing that type of work, are you working for yourself? Are you a company? How do you go about your business activities?
I work with 4 other colleagues over at We Teach. We Teach is a company that is based on writing education material, not just for cannabis. They were writing education material for nonprofits. It's basically customizing whatever somebody wanted in an education format, doing all of the annotations, researches, and summaries to make sure that it had a foundation and was feasible. I was working with them doing nonprofit summer program writing for grants or technical writing. And my background is federal housing compliance. So I worked in the Federal Housing and Urban Development in their compliance department. So it just kind of felt like a natural fit.
Yeah.
Federal loves a bunch of paper, and I like to read.
Does having a photographic memory facilitate that reading, or is it just a personal passion of reading?
I want to say that it's a little bit of both, but more so it's just a passion of reading. Somebody told me once, if you read enough, you can find money in a book. Every book I picked up, there's been some means of making money in it.
A funny coincidence you say that. I was just watching into something where they were talking about Elon Musk, and somebody asked him the question, how did he get so smart? Humbly just said, I read a lot as a kid. And that's always stuck with me, just in that essence. Obviously, I'm sure he's a very gifted, talented individual, but I think there's some truth to that, to how much reading one does with their overall intelligence and just how they function in the world.
It helps. I mean, I think that the more I read, regardless of whether or not it facilitates a business that I'm running or someone else is running, my goal is, in working with We Teach and developing these pamphlets, booklets, courses, is to actually give people an opportunity to make an educated choice. There's nothing like making a choice without the information in front of you.
When you were younger, like coming out of high school, what did you envision yourself doing?
I actually wanted to be the tax attorney for Pablo Escobar.
I just finished the season of Narcos.
I did too. But growing up, because my family, some of them are from Cuba, some of them are from El Salvador, I wanted to be the attorney, but not just the attorney. I wanted to be the tax attorney for Pablo Escobar. I wanted to be the tax attorney. And it was like, I could do this and I could do this and I know this. I was 14, 15, and I love to read the new tax attorney laws or the tax regulations. My uncle worked for the IRS, and he bring these booklets home, and he say, read that and tell me what they say, or just make a note.
That's funny.
So I'd read through the regs because it was interesting.
I want to know what your favorite book is that's not tax related or compliance related or regulation.
Nonfiction.
What's your fiction favorite?
My favorite book of all times, and please don't laugh, my favorite book of all times is a self-biography, and I finished reading it for the second time, Jimmy Carter's biography, and I found it so interesting.
So you can still derive pleasure from reading. Doesn't all have to be numbers and facts and laws and policy.
It doesn't all have to be numbers and facts and policies. It's just about the person and their ability to navigate themselves through the world regardless to how they started out.
Are you Cuban? Is that what you were alluding to? Are you Cuban? Or
I'm Cuban. I was born here in the U.S., and I've been back to Cuba many times, but now that they've lifted the ban, I can probably go more.
A couple years ago or so?
Yeah, it's been about a year now.
Never been there. I've been to Mexico quite a few years myself. Never anywhere else. So maybe that might be one place we go. Maybe you'll bring the cannabis industry to Cuba, right? Maybe you'll be the one to...
Well, I mean, hopefully at some point, if I had a choice, I'd actually like to go live in Fiji and then just work out of the United States.
There you go. So what was the actual transition from being Pablo Escobar's tax accountant to... which, if I remember the series right, good thing you weren't, because remember what happened to him in the series.
He had a hiccup.
Yeah. But what was the actual transition that led you up to being involved in the cannabis industry? Have you always known you've had this gift since you were a young kid?
I've always known that I was weird. I didn't really get it seen as a gift, and some people still make me feel like it's just weird. But the transition from my love of tax attorney and all things Pablo Escobar kind of translated when my mother said, no, I need you to think in real terms, in real life, and please, while I'm alive, stay away from jail. The transition for the cannabis industry was I actually played around with making edibles. And once I found that I could make products that weren't green, like birthday cakes and for friends and family and wedding cakes and things like that, I wanted a restaurant. Chimichurri sauce for cowboy steaks. That was my love. Just making focaccia bread and really good marinara sauce, a nice bolognese, a really good cheesecake that smelled nice, was really good, but the process was different. I wanted just a restaurant. What got me from that to cannabis compliance was Frank. I got to say, he changed the game. Standing and asking someone who is working at the regulatory/authoritative office for licensing and have him with a look on his face that was similar to a TV with a blue screen and an antenna with foil on it, that was eye-opening. This is a person who is going to take my money, give me a license that I don't know what to do with, I don't know the parameters of, and neither does he. So it was really eye-opening. I don't go in anything half done, and I definitely weigh my risk by understanding working in federal housing. There's always a risk factor, but the love of wanting to have a private restaurant, that was my cause to just jump in and read. Am I at a point where I'll get the restaurant? Probably in about, I want to say a little less than maybe 4 years, be able to facilitate that with the legislation turning the way it is. Yes. But right now, I think that the understanding and the push and motivation for me is the fact that when people don't know, I mean, it's $135,000 for a license out of Connecticut. And that was just 8 months ago. New York, they want almost $2.5 million. Florida, they want $2.5 million in a cash bond escrow account. They're not trying to get the mom and pop people who are making medicines for the sick and dying. No, they want the Pablo Escobars that just hadn't got caught. There's no way you could breastfeed midgets at a circus and still not get to $135,000 every 30 days to apply for an application. But then here's the problem. When you apply for that license, I don't have to tell you why you're denied. I just send you a letter. One of your partners has 6 months in back child support. You're denied, but I'm not going to tell you why, because you can come and reapply in another 30 days. Arizona's current legislation that's being voted on in November, it has a mark at $55,000, and that's the start just for cultivation. It's going to jump. It's constantly being amended. Right now, between now and November, it'll probably be amended 2-3 times. They've gotten a key price structure on how much they want to charge for each of these licenses with no applicable responsibility, accountability, or even understanding and comprehending what this license allows and what the risk management is. The state is covering the state. And if I knew people who had $55,000 to give every 30 days just to reapply, okay, awesome. But the rest of us out here in the real world, nobody has that kind of money. So the moral responsibility for me working with We Teach is to make sure that there's a platform of 1, comprehension, 2, understanding, and a digestible amount of vocabulary that doesn't leave you going, what the hell?
Do you see yourself moving into politics at all?
No. I'm way too shady for politics. I mean, I've come from a background where I can honestly say, have I been involved in the cannabis industry? Oh, hell yeah. Have I been overwhelmingly at a higher level of risk than others? To some degree, but I read a lot.
Yeah.
The other part of it is, politics means that there's a lobbyist that I owe. Yeah,
not interested in that. But you have such a presence about you, and you have the ability to acquire information. You could almost debate with anybody, and I mean, it would be almost impossible to debate with you. I mean, you have such an advantage of dominating.
That's not an advantage. That all I do is read, and I'll tell anybody that. I'm not looking to challenge somebody on what they know or what they don't understand. But the one thing I can tell you that at every party, every dinner, every review, just even the little symposiums that I've gone to, if you don't know, don't argue. If you don't understand, don't make it a soapbox moment. Because when I talk to people, I'm asking you something to help you mitigate risk. Is there a back end to that I plan on making some money off you? No. Because if you don't learn it, guess what? I mean, I'm sure that your cellmate Bubba or your cellmate Tina will help you out when you get there of what you didn't learn. Prime example is I had a client who decided to take her lump sum from Social Security and get a couple of licenses from Washington State. I pulled her to the side in a nice fashion. I told her, we never met and you don't know me. And she asked me why. You just told the federal government that you are willing to do an agricultural farming of a scheduled narcotic, right? She's like, well, yeah, it's legal in Washington. Do you realize that you also just told the Social Security Administration that you're an able-bodied farmer? Well, no. Yes, you did. You got a license as a sole proprietor, not under a business structure, to actually run 1,100 plants. So Social Security Administration is going to wonder, where the hell did that disability go? Jesus has healed me. I have been saved. Now that you've done that, they're just going to wait till you continue to file the state taxes for that cannabis license, and then Social Security will step in somewhere down the line when you hit their magic number and go, okay, hey, hello, Sally. We're going to need that money that we gave you for all that time you said you were disabled. And by the way, that's fraud.
That's such a powerful piece of advice. You must charge $1,000 an hour to work for people.
That was free because it was common sense. Why charge someone for something? You said you were disabled. You filed paperwork and went to doctors to say that you were completely physically unable to hold a job. Yet you go and get a license that says that you're physically and completely mentally stable to water and take care of more than 1,000 plants by yourself. To me, that was just like, okay, you wrote this on the wall in your own blood. I didn't need to charge you for that. I just needed to tell you that we never met.
Well, it's common sense when you point it out, but before pointing it out, she could have walked herself into a lot of trouble.
Well, she's got a YouTube video up at one of the local women meetings telling them how she walked the summer, winter, and fall, watering all these plants, taking care of all this stuff. And I said, now you put yourself in what I call a RICO statute. Well, what does that mean? Okay, RICO is when you you got the license, because it's state and not federal, and every applicable charge that you built up since then, that's how we get RICO charges. And she was like, what? Well, I didn't. Okay. Did you know that RICO was retro? Retro means from the day you got that state license and beyond. Beyond that, you were a medical patient. Before that, you were this, you were that. The fact that you're growing at your home makes your homeowner's insurance null and void. The fact that you're growing on your land at your home and it's not yours makes it null and void. The fact that you were a medical cannabis user under the Social Security Administration for Social Security disability before you got the licenses makes it null and void. So everything you've done up until this point can be retroactive should federal decide to open that door. And you wonder how these charges get built up.
You're better than a lawyer. I would pay you over I would pay a lawyer. I mean, you have the information like right there and you have the facts.
But don't you see where this would be deemed like, okay, duh, common sense. It's not like I'm not quoting any statutes because there are no statutes applicable to the cannabis business industry. They're only applicable to the cannabis criminal side.
Right. But understanding the statutes helps you communicate with people about their actions. And that's the value. That's where the value is.
And it's one of those things to take in consideration when you go to those symposium 300, 500. Yeah. When you go to those and you hear the conversation of, hey, I can tell you about the expert side of blah, 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 blah. And you never hear the word risk management. You never hear the word risk. You never hear the word applicable, responsible, regulatory.
Yeah, like I come from corporate America. Every corporation has a risk policy, right? They deem what is acceptable risk for their company. And I think with cannabis, it's a baby, it's an embryo. And we're not thinking in terms of long-term risk where, like you said, that lady didn't even think the whole thing through. Yeah, she might be fine now and she didn't think about it. But like you said, those things that we don't know or we're operating in the gray area could be the thing that puts the nail in the coffin or puts you in a bind and you never saw it coming.
So let me give you a real life scenario. There is a cannabis food grade company. They make drinks, they make edibles, real good line. Solid line. There's a food, or shall I say, a grocery lobbyist. Looking at them, looking. I sit on a federal advisory committee. I did up until maybe a month or two ago, and they started asking strategic questions. Not about the product, not about the process, not even about the patents that they had in place for making some of the products. They started asking about the CEO. And then I heard the words that I've been waiting for. How long will it take for us to absorb them?
They're just looking for exit strategies.
They're looking for methods in which to gain the brands that are being developed in the cannabis industry and absorb them into what is already westernized products. Hypothetically, if Nabisco was looking at a company like Dixie Elixir, it would be easy to walk in and take over.
Because they've been building their company following the federal rules and regulations, and they've been on the sidelines watching the cannabis industry. And once it's, say, federally legal, they can swoop in and now replicate the processes for the cannabis product.
Yep, and go one step further. What is the easiest way for me to lowball you on what you want for your company? I can pick up every regulation that you've already getting ready to get fined for. So if I fine you for your OSHA violations and I fine you for your labor practices and I fine you for not doing Hep C, TB, those tests that are standard in any other food grade operations, I can pretty much absorb you for little or nothing.
So in a way, if we're paying attention if we're paying attention to risk and where those things could derail, companies are already doing that, then they're almost in a way more valuable and bulletproofing that they can sustain when big pharma or big corporation enter the ring.
Yes, and that's where you switch off between brand and legacy. Look at the back of packages like Madam Munchies. I love Madam Munchies. Oh my God, I'd sit on the board just for free products. I know that's wrong. But the packaging for Madam Munchies, that is the benchmark for what every edible company should have. She is the benchmark. It's the nutritional value. It is content. It is the method of consumption. It is the adult labeling. There's only a couple of tweaks that I would make for that one. But here's the problem. Edibles are illegal in the state of California. Illegal. There is nothing written in Prop 215 that allows you to alter flower for consumption. Not a gray area. It's the truth. Prop 215 didn't get changed. It didn't get amended. Jerry Brown didn't even take a second look at it. He immediately went into writing the next step. And that's fine. But does that leave any coverage for the 300 plus edible companies we have, or edible, I'm not even going to say brands. We have more than 200 brands. But does that leave any grandfathering process in for the edible places that are already in distribution, mass distribution at this point? No. I talk to clients all the time and I tell them, I say, well, I know I have one document that I've created with We Teach. It's called an alternate ingestion method. You know how like when you go to the pharmacy and they say, well, do you prefer a pill or liquid? So based on how the patient can ingest, that's how the pharmacy gives the prescription. So with an alternative ingestion document that we created with We Teach, what it allows the patient to do is all of the other ingestion of product that they've taken to consume under their medical card and then submit that with their card to the state just to get it back. We've received this, blah, blah, blah. Just a certified mail. I'm not asking you. I'm telling you as a patient, I can't smoke flower. I can't smoke flower. I can't vape flower. But even if I can, it's for a limited period of time. So I'm going to alter my recommendation from my doctor, attach a letter that says I need an alternative method of ingestion, and list the product. So therefore, by default, you're putting it into the state hands on notice that these are the products that I'm using. I am a valid Prop 215 qualified patient, and these products should, push come to shove, I can fight for my products because I've already sent you the accountability on my end and responsibility as a patient to the state to say, these are the ones I'm using, these are the brands, this is the company, this is where I'm getting it from, and that's what I need. But then you have people who say, oh, well, they're not going anywhere. I'm like, okay, so if they're not legal and they're made for the masses, how do you account for this product when clearly Prop 215 does not allow edibles, topicals, or anything other than flower, not vapor, not extract? I mean, let's get technical about it. Does it say that you can augment that flower and turn it into whatever you like just based on the person's consumption methods? No. Prop 215 doesn't allow for any of that. But then the repercussion of that is you've altered the flower with no reason, rhyme, or otherwise. No patient asked you. Why does this exist? And then all of the accountability falls on that 501c3 or nonprofit-based dispensary.
Let me ask you this. Since you've read, I think literally since you said all the laws, what is the one success that you've seen consistently amongst all these states writing their own laws that you would say, here's one thing that is successful in bringing a regulated medical, and let's forget the recreational for a second, since mostly it's medical that's coming forward as the icebreaker into getting cannabis in some form of legalization. What would you say the one thing that's successful that states are doing? And they're all a little different, but is there one thing that's rising to the top as being a consistent, here's a successful regulatory model?
The success out of every single state has been that with under the umbrella of medical, that they are looking for the advisory and the statutes of mortal illnesses from the AMA and hospice. I have to give hands down, that is the only celebratory factor I've seen. That the guidelines for terminal have been under the American Medical Association for mortal illnesses and under the American Hospice. Those two factors have made me completely and utterly happy about how the process has been taken seriously. I know that some people fight for other illnesses and they want them added to the list, and that's fine. But the guidelines for every single state from Connecticut out to Colorado has been mainly based on what is already listed for terminal illnesses under American Medical Association and hospice. And I am very proud of that.
What about the contrary? Again, we recognize all states are different, kind of writing their own laws. But one thing, the contrary to that, what's one thing that consistently is just not good compliance or policy or structure
Okay,
that states
here
are
we
going. Do we need to go on to another show and
No,
extend?
you'll probably do another show, but here it goes. Child safety. It is a farce. It is a load of crap. It is, from a federal end, the biggest lapse in judgment. From the state end, it is the most convenient dumping ground. I think that child safety has not just been overlooked, ignored, baffling, asinine, and any other indicative vocabulary or word that I can find. Children are not the priority. They have no mechanisms in place whatsoever to offer them the safety of unintelligent, unorthodox parent. They have put no safeguards in place from the federal perspective to even give them a safe haven. And I'm talking about children as minor card holders, as well as children in the household of adults with medical marijuana cards. I can give you two examples. One, and I don't care how much flashback I get for this, there was a young lady in Kansas. I'm not going to mention her name because she's already had her 15 minutes. She put her child in a situation that children shouldn't be in. To explain something to a child, that's fine. To go into a state law enforcement office and represent yourself as anything other than a responsible parent, and to register what you're using, when you're using, how you're using, and accountability in a responsible method would have been the way to go. To actually volunteer for Child Protective Services agents to come and do a home visit, a run through, a criteria check, that would have been the way to go. This young lady decided to take it up on herself and make a stance out of it and make a soapbox moment out of it while putting her child in further jeopardy. Was a child a card holder? No. But he was under the applicable rules and guidelines of an incompetent mother. Did I say incompetent mother? Yes. Because marijuana does not change your cognitive capabilities. If you dumb as a bag of damn rocks, before you smoke, you'll be dumb as a bag of slow rocks after you smoke. That's not going to help your cognitive capabilities. But then the other part of it is, for me, as a parent with a child that is a minor card holder, give them some room, give them some guidance, give them some mandatory respiratory therapists at each dispensary on a specific day that allows them to understand what ingestion and consumption means. Give them something other than snake oil that is bullshit, and some feedback. If they're not inside of a scientific research grant-funded project, okay, awesome. But you're talking about parents who are trapped children who will never be anything other than children, even at 30. They will still be completely dependent. But the fail-safe of that is you'll get whoever to make those recommendations on behalf of that minor card holder that have no DEA good standing for controlled substance script. And it's like, where's the safeguard? What if that parent has Munchausen and does what I refer to as doctor shopping? You're not monitoring how much this minor child card holder is getting in controlled substances, but yet you'll monitor if a child has a controlled substance through a regular method. And if that child gets a script, you'll monitor how many times that parent goes and shops for that prescription under a child's name. So why not make it the same? This is no different. I think that children are my soapbox issue because they don't get a choice. They don't get a choice, and it's kind of screwed up that here it is. You have the cannabis community, or what would be referred to as pseudo cannabis community, but they're not looking out within themselves for that same loyalty, respect, and reputation that it's always had.
Assuming we could wave a magic wand, what would be the one thing that would need to change to right that situation?
The Department of Maternal Health, which I've had a couple of conference calls with, they need to open negotiations. Maternal and child health needs to open negotiations. They're over the Department of Health and Human Services in every state. If they put a platform down for child protection, for a controlled substance, doesn't have to be the scheduled narcotic of cannabis, but just for controlled substance. I mean, my argument with them was, here it is, you don't even have to have training on controlled substances when I go pick up a foster kid. But now you want to put all of these other measures in place. Let's get a platform. Put a platform in place that protects that child that needs the cannabis for whatever reason. It's a health choice. Also put the measures in place that makes it applicable that this is a help, not a hindrance. Then the number two is the licenses. The card holders, come on, cut the shit. If I have to pay for another license in California because my child is sick, tell me I got to pay an extra $15 if I'm visiting California. If I live in Colorado and I'm going to California, I'm going to Oregon, I'm going to Washington, and I have my sick kid with me, that card should go with me. Hell, every Walgreens, I can order medication from Portland to Washington, D.C., and it's going to transfer. Why? Because that's my medication, and that's where I pick it up, at that local Walgreens. It shouldn't be any different with the dispensaries, but I'm focusing on the child factor. I've watched and I've seen up close what it does to a parent to have to deal with all of the mitigating circumstances. It at least would give them an avenue of protection, accountability, and responsibility as a parent instead of just flying by the seat of their pants and trying to figure out what's right.
These are some pretty serious issues. I mean, I'm a parent, Becca is a parent, and these are always the issues that I think get the most attention when it comes to public debate and media attention and, opposition and everything else. It does focus so much on the children. So my one question would be, why is there not any actual implementation? Because at least here in Colorado, it feels like there is a lot of focus on the children, and people are always standing up at the debates and the meetings saying, what about the children? And it's not like it's a hidden issue. What is preventing these things from happening?
It's revenue. If it's not a cause that I can make money off of, if it's not a special line of products that I can make money off of, if it's not an applicable way for me to open up a new revenue stream, why should I care? And that's from a state perspective as well as from a federal perspective. It's not what I've read. These are people that I've talked to. Okay, what does that matter? I'm like, well, that's not going to open up any revenue stream. The conversation I had with the powers that be in the maternal health department is, well, we can actually put a child protective service monitor, and put them on the case file. I say, okay, but why would you open up a case if the parent is volunteering to let you know that this is my child or this is me and I'm going to move forward? You can do your home visit, but why open up a case? It's not like Child Protective Services has ever had the best reputation, ever. Even if you're mad at your most hated enemy, you won't call Child Protective Services. Most people, it's not even moral. It's like, well, shit, you ain't done nothing that bad. Your most hated enemy, you won't call Child Protective Services. Why? Because they have the reputation that they don't care and they don't want to help. But this whole thing about not protecting children is because it doesn't allow for an allotted revenue stream to continue. It's not opening the floodgates to tax money. It's not opening the floodgates to, we could put a person in your life for the rest of your life and make your life a living hell. But as long as we're having enough billable hours back to the state to tap into that cannabis revenue stream, nobody wants that. And the states aren't going to give them liberty to do that, which is okay, but it also leaves the parents with no responsibility, no accountability, and no protection.
I don't know how you're going to stay out of politics, but maybe if you don't want to be a politician because you got too many skeletons in your closets, you need to be at a leadership position, because we need to somehow be able to duplicate not only your skills, but your passion about what's going on here. How do we do that? How do you take your individual gifts and how do we multiply that so more of the world can take advantage of what you're doing? You can't individually help everybody, but how do we take your gifts and somehow get them out there in the world? How does that translate?
I wish I knew. I wish I knew. I participate in a lot of things. Am I more of an advocate? Probably so, because, you have to do something with passion in order for you to actually see a point in it. So for me, it's passion over paycheck. But the way that they do this is take what they call the cannabis community and be serious about it. It's one thing for you to get into an avenue where there's a revenue stream where you can change your whole life. But then you know that there's a saying about that. Nothing changes in your life in reference to money but the money. Please don't take this out of context. But if you were a backstabbing, no good, lying, thief, whore, you'd just be a backstabbing, no good, lying, rich whore. That's all that would change.
Right.
Everything else would be the same.
Right.
So your morals, your piss poor judgment, that's the same. You're the same person, just in better clothes and less CVS hair dye. You're in the same situation. If you're in the cannabis industry and you're in it for a reason, regardless if it's money or if it's passion or if it's just what you feel compelled to do, this is not an industry you can jump in, put your toe in, play double dutch, hop out and think that there's no repercussions. There are always ripple effects on anything. But then the number one factor of it is communication is key. I don't care who you're talking to. It doesn't really matter who you're in business with until you start that conversation of complete and total transparency. This is what it is. Know it all. You notice you get your license. Nobody says anything. You go meet this guy, hypothetically. You go meet this guy, Jack in the Beanstalk. You climb up the tree, you get your beans, you come back down. You grow your plants, you put them in your dispensary.
Maybe somebody will hear this conversation and come up with a way to somehow multiply you in every single dispensary around the country at the same time. Because what we need are people who can quickly evaluate these situations with hard facts, and that's what you're able to do. You have a gift that allows you to do that. And
it's going to be probably before the end of the year. The rest of the information will roll out at one time. Hopefully, we'll be able to educate more than less. If somebody wants to mimic the same things that I have, it's care. Start caring. It really makes you invest in your time and energy into something.
Right. I guess you could have taken a photographic memory and gone into any industry and probably been successful using that talent. Could have probably
Pablo
been
Escobar.
Right. Exactly. You wouldn't need to keep the books; they would just be in your head. So they would have never found the books. They would have to extract them from your head somehow.
Yes.
Well, I don't know. Maybe there's an app somewhere in the future that can get this information in a way for dispensaries to access the type of information you have access to, obviously without tapping straight into your brain or having you on speed dial, and calling you every time there's an issue.
It will be on paper soon.
Are we going to sell that? Is that going to be something for sale? Is it going to be just put up on a website?
No, the classes the actual courses will be distributed throughout dispensaries. First and foremost, Your First Time pamphlets will be distributed from dispensary to recreational, the venues to purchase. The second part of it is the booklets, such as the DMV, kind of mimicking the small booklet. That will be distributed through also the outlet. The courses actually will be offered through different classes that are offered like at places like Oaksterdam. I'm hoping that I can finish up a conversation with them next week and add it as a part of what they teach. So they will purchase the booklets, the instruction manuals, and teach it from that perspective. But in general, this is the go-to. It'll go directly to community colleges so that it will be part of their continued ed community courses. And then it will give everybody a platform so it's cost controlled.
That sounds like something I definitely need to make sure the owners of this dispensary here keep up on. Just giving them your card or sending them to a website, or once it gets published live, referring them back to it. Like I said, they have, it's called the Denver Consulting Group. You can look them up online, and they're the owners of the dispensary here, which is called Dank Dispensary, Dank Medical Recreational Dispensary here in Denver. And they have the Denver Consulting Group, and they go around the country and they help other dispensaries get set up. So I can't see why you wouldn't be a perfect associate to be involved with in what they're doing.
I'm always looking for more places to dump more information. So if they want to hear me ramble on about all of the things I've read, which I find interesting, I do. I like it.
Well, I hope you find it interesting. It would be torturous.
I find it completely and utterly interesting. Some people, they listen to me and go, oh, God, why would you read all of that? What difference does it make? I'm like, okay, I'll be quiet.
But no, like you said, everybody has their thing. If I owned a dispensary, you would be the person I would want on my speed dial for that reason, because you're into it, right? I don't want to call the guy who's taking it home like homework and having to read over it, because it's interrupting him watching the game. I want somebody who's into it. That's who you want, right? That whether they're your baker, your chef, or your lawyer, your banker, your accountant, you want somebody who's into what they're doing. And I think you have definitely shown that.
Well, I'm hoping hoping that when everything rolls out with We Teach that I'm able to get back to consulting. Right now, I'm working on the certification test to go with the courses that are being introduced to the community colleges. So the certifications would be like for the first class for business operations. That would be retroactive to somebody who's applying for a license. They take a course that we're designing called OOBY. It's owned and operated by you. It's a virtual course where you go through every single thing of opening up a business in the cannabis industry, regardless if it's low risk or high risk. And you get through all of the modules. You get the monopoly money. You go through all of the modules. What you can do is fail. What you can do is pass. But at the end of the course, there's a certification test. It's an exam. Once you pass with 75% or more, that certification is issued to you and also issued to your state. As a secondary measure, it's also sent to the Department of Maternal Health so that if you're under the medical umbrella for cannabis, then there's a record that we send to them to say this person passed this test with this module, with this learning comprehension package. Now, whether they acknowledge it or not, at least you have some protection measure that says that you understand this, and this. Coming from my brain, I haven't had two to pass yet.
Is this from like a pass from a compliance standpoint of starting a business or from the basics of starting a business? Like, how are you going to form it?
No, this is from the cannabis industry. This is all from the cannabis industry perspective as far as compliance and being applicable to state rules and federal.
Okay, so this would be for Joe Smith, who's looking at getting some type of education, finds this pathway in a university that says, hey, I can study this, and when I'm done, I will be ready to open a dispensary or ready to get hired as a managing partner in a dispensary, that type of...
Yes, to clearly understand the business valuation of it. Like, right now, under 280E, you can't file for any of the depreciation, blah, 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 but you can apply for the cost of goods sold. Well, most people don't understand that. Then in the virtual course, what you do is you get an outline of all of it. So any loophole that I find that's applicable to federal law that keeps you on that walking fence, that's what's taught.
This is something I'm very interested in. So please, when it does go live or published or however it finally comes out into the public, please let me know. And since you have a photographic memory, I won't take the I forgot your email or name excuse.
No.
But please let me know because this sounds so interesting. And I know here in Colorado, there's some of the universities that had some talk about maybe some programs being opened up.
Yeah, that's why I'm staying away from some of the universities. When we had our team meeting, I said that the community colleges would keep it at a feasible price point. Universities that receive federal funding, because, again, it's not a cash cow for them. But with a community college, at least you get to become alumni, and you can give back to a community college after your business is up and off the ground with a revenue stream.
Well, we got a lot to look forward to. Do you have an existing website now that people can view? Or?
I don't have a website. I know that We Teach was trying to structure one, and then they just kind of put that on hold to finish up all of the paperwork for just the courses and outlines. And because they just focus on just doing the aspect of designing curriculum, and I've been kind of like the spearhead on the cannabis compliance, then they were just like, okay, we don't know if we want to do it online because we just want to offer it to community courses, but that's definitely one of the conversation pieces that are in place.
Where do we send, let's say, a nice young dispensary owner hears our conversation, gets excited, wants to reach out to you? Where do we send them?
You can actually just send them to my phone number. I answer every call.
Okay. Is that a number you want me to privately give out, or do you want to publicly give that out?
I say privately.
Okay.
Because if I get one more person asking me if they can make edibles inside their home for sale, I'm going to scream.
Good. That was going to be the first person I was going to refer you to, was my friend making edibles at home.
Well, if that person decides that they want to branch out into a model that will allow them to franchise to other dispensaries with a distribution chain, then yes, I would definitely give them my number. Otherwise, if they're just playing around as a hobby and it's in the kitchen and they don't want to go too far with whatever, then I'd say no.
Perfect. That's a great way to go out. You could have used your skills for good or evil, and you chose good. So I think I'm going to applaud that all around. Yes. We're applauding here in studio that you chose to be on the good side, rather than working for like a federal prosecutor somewhere. But
then, I miss my calling to work for Pablo Escobar, so there's no topping that wish list.
And now that El Chapo's out of the scene, who knows who's left in the international realm of drug dealing? There's no more big drug dealers left. What are we going to do? I guess we'll have to move to corporations. Well, this has been a great conversation, and I have a feeling I'm going to want to ask you to come back and talk some more just because you have so much there.
Not a problem. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was nice to meet
Thank you. Hopefully we'll all get a chance to meet in person.
Absolutely.
Anytime you're in the Denver area, come on by. We're at the Dank Dispensary, 3835 Elm Street, Denver, Colorado. I'm in Studio H, which is the first door to the right when you walk in. And I'm saying that because I'm assuming you're going to remember all that, whereas normally I just wouldn't tell. I wouldn't even tell somebody that. For some reason, I feel obligated to give you details now.
Not a problem.
And when we make it to San Francisco, when we take the show on the road.
Oh, yes, we'll have to bring our Colorado brand out to California. One last question, though, and please don't pander to us, but of all the states that have gone legal in some form, which one rises above the rest as being so far the best? Maybe not the most perfect, but just maybe the best in the model they've chosen and the actual structure of their regulation and how it's succeeding. Is there any state that comes to mind that maybe stands above the others?
Yeah, about that.
She's going to pick apart Colorado. I can't wait to pick your brain on Colorado.
I'm going to say that the structure of recreational has been implemented best in Colorado.
Of recreational.
The structure of implementing has been best served in Colorado.
What about medical?
The facilitation of medical has been best structured nowhere.
Okay.
That's good to know. That's good information.
Cool. I think we'll take that as a win, and we'll chalk that up on our board here.
Okay.
Well, very good. Further in the future, I'm going to ask you to come back and talk some more about a subject and kind of use you as the person who I can rely on as being at least accurate, if nothing else.
Well, I will keep reading, not just for my own sanity to understand and comprehend, but also because I hate not having an answer.
I appreciate it. Well, thank you very much. You enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll be in touch.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thanks. Bye.
There you go, Cannapreneurs. That's all I have for you this week. Thank you very much for joining us. Make sure to come back next week. And after the show, you can always carry on the conversation with us on all the social media, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Google, Massroots, and so much more. Even YouTube to stay involved because this is your community. So next week, we're going to have more conversations that you want to hear, more guests that are going to help us take it to the next level. This is your show, so come back. We'll see you next week.